Hey guys, so I finally decided to get on here and make a follow-up video to my first pelvic pain video that I made where I burned those books. It's kind of rude, I know, but it needed to be done. I was happy to see that few people actually got on there and watched that video, and it might be helping some people. I ended up with a few subscribers. I had no idea what kind of response I was going to get on that video. I was actually a little worried, nervous, because I know that the TMS message is not always well received. But anyways, it sounds like some people are ready to hear this. And so I want to do the right thing, and I want to do everything I can to help. So I want to start this video off talking about what kind of prompted me to finally get on and make a video, even though it makes me nervous as hell. I'm not a public speaker. So randomly on my YouTube channel, a video popped up from someone I had subscribed to from about 2 years ago. And this is a pelvic pain sufferer. And at that time, he was actually doing better than me. I mean, just to be able to get on, make a video and talk to people, it was ahead of where I was. I mean, I was just in a living complete hell. Well, anyways, I found TMS and I didn't watch any more of his videos. He wasn't, I don't know. I don't know what it was. I think it was kind of depressing. But anyways, so another one of his videos popped up. And again, it's 2 years later and he's talking about that he's regressing and he's still super depressed. And it doesn't sound like he's really found hope or a real answer to what's going on. And I was like, wow, this is so depressing. And then I look and he's got 1,000 subscribers, people that are looking for answers to this depression and anxiety and pelvic pain. And so I'm like, oh my God, I mean, if he's got 1,000 subscribers and it's incredibly depressing for me to watch, somebody's got to come out and talk about this, because there is hope. I mean, I'm sitting right here. I got no pelvic pain right now. So that's the reason, is it showed me. It was like, oh my gosh, somebody's got to get on and connect with people. Somebody has to do this. And so I got to get over my fear of talking to people. So let's see. I wrote a few things down that I wanted to talk about. So it's pretty cool. So Steve Ozanich actually came across my other video, the other pelvic pain video. He came across it and he thought it was awesome. He wants to use it, and and he even said that some of the doctors he works with and marketers think it was a really good video. So he's going to put that up on his victory wall over TMS. And so I'm here to kind of help more people figure out what the root of their pain is, the root of all their physical symptoms and the mental health stuff, because it all goes together. Addiction goes with it too. And so what I want to say is that physical symptoms, depression, anxiety, and all other psychological issues are secondary symptoms. So if you just try to fix your depression, you just try to fix your anxiety, you try to fix your pelvic pain, your back pain, your migraines, whatever it is, if you have knee pain, shoulders, feet, I mean, I've had all of these things, but if you try to fix those, then you're missing the point. You're missing the cause, and that's why you're not getting long-term results and you're not getting any sort of permanent healing. You just have a new symptom, and it feels like it's going to be a lifelong thing. And so what is really going on is there are things in your life that need to change. And this is where things get interesting, because, TMS healing is not easy, but it's the real path to true healing, permanent healing. So basically, you're not being true to yourself. If you're in chronic pain and you're depressed and anxious, you aren't being true to yourself at all. You're out of balance, and that's really the bottom line. I guess I want to go back and talk more about why I've been postponing finally making a follow-up video. And the reason is I wanted to be completely healed. Like, and when I'm a perfectionist, and that's part of TMS, and I want to be perfect healed. You know, I mean, I've overcome a lot, and I live on a different planet than I did 2 years ago. But I wanted to be complete, no more pain, zero, no symptoms. I want to have zero depression, zero anxiety, zero fear. Well, that takes a little bit longer, and that takes some serious work, you know. And so what I realized is that part of my healing is going to be helping other people. And actually, I've been talking with Steve Ozanich lately, and he actually wrote me, because I was kind of expressing to him where I've been stuck and trying to figure out what to do. And he told me that people who heal are people who have seen a greater light. And people who see a greater light are those who want to help immediately, because there is no greater joy in life. So what I realize is that I don't need to be completely healed to help. That's not how it works. I will completely heal because I'm helping, and it's helping me integrate this concept into my life, which takes time because we're dealing with the unconscious mind and it's stubborn. I feel that I am qualified to talk to people about TMS, the mind-body syndrome, because I've experienced it. I no longer have any belief that my physical and mental symptoms are caused by anything out of my control. They're not caused by anything structural or pathological, and trust me, I went to doctors, so I actually figured that out for sure. And the mental health stuff isn't just brain chemistry either. It's all stemming from what's going on in your life. And so the real cause for me and my pain, you know, to put it briefly, and I'll try to go into this more in the future, but a very long time ago, when I was very young, I started to be something other than I was. And I did this to please the people around me and to make them love me. So, you know, that's a hard thing to talk about, but it's so true. It's like when you start to realize that you really haven't been yourself your whole life, you know. So I got this from Steve, and so this is where we're talking about what the real cause of pain is. And so we move away from the physical stuff, and I might tell you a little bit about what I actually experienced, just so you know that I'm not kidding around, and that I was there at the worst of the suffering. So maybe I can go back to that. But the true problems and things that are causing pain are relationship arguments, rejections, death of loved ones, financial worries, lack of pleasure, midlife crisis, anxiety over aging, health, life disappointments, and loneliness. These are the main causes. These are the things that are causing you to repress your emotions, and they're causing tension and stress in your life. And that's creating all the symptoms. So I guess I'll go back a little bit just so you know that it was bad for me, and how it is completely different 2 years later after reading Dr. Sarno's books, reading Steve Ozanich, reading Gabor Mate, reading all about this mind-body connection stuff. My life is different. But when I started this, at the very worst, towards the end of what was going on with me, first it was really bad back pain. And I had gone to the point where I was looking for a surgeon. I went into a surgeon, and this is after chiropractic and everything else you could do, physical therapy for your back. And they told me I had a bulge disc. Well, I went in to the surgeon, and he was actually pretty honest and really did tell me, like, we have no confidence at all in surgery. We don't know why it works, when it works. He had no confidence, and I could just tell it, and thank God. So I was like, well, surgery's not an option. And then it was like, well, how about these steroid injections? And he's like, well, it can't hurt. And so I'm like, all right, sign me up. I don't mind this. Go in, and for me, that is not fun, getting a needle stuck in your spine. But anyways, I'm like, well, it can't hurt. And it's kind of funny because I'm in the waiting room to do that. And they're like, well, what's your pain today? And I'm like, to be honest, it's like zero. I don't know what's going on. Like, it's just gone. And I'm about to get this needle stuck in my back. Well, I go and do it anyways. 2 days later, I call the surgeon, and I'm like, it made it worse, and it shifted, and now I'm got back pain on the other side I didn't have before. And he's like, oh, yeah, that can happen sometimes. Told me to take 12 ibuprofen a day, which I did for like 4 days, and then my freaking stomach started hurting. So I'm like, this is crazy. And at that point, I was like, I'm done with dealing with back pain. I'm done. Well, subsequently, the back pain starts going away. I'm like, all right, I'm going to start playing hockey. I'm going to do all this. Well, I have a relationship that meant so much to me comes to what I know has to be the end. And this is after a long struggle in that. You can go into more in that at another time. But anyways, this is for me when the pelvic pain started. And this is where my fear hit an absolute peak. And then the next like 4 or 5 months was a living hell. And the worst that got with the pelvic pain, as you know, and when I'm talking about pelvic pain, I'm talking that you got complete pain in that area. You have to pee every 3 seconds. It feels like someone's jamming a knife into your urethra. You just have pain, and it's like that whole area is just, it is horrible. You can't sit down. You can't do anything. And so I started pursuing that, trying to figure, I'm like, there's something wrong. And I thought I for sure had an STD. That was what I thought it had to be. Well, anyways, I go through all the pelvic, I go through the urologists and all those kind of doctors, and they don't find anything. I didn't have an STD. I didn't have any bacteria for a UTI. I didn't have anything going on. Well, I'm like, well, then time goes by and you like keep going back. And I did like 3 rounds of antibiotics, all of that. And then after all of that, I'm like, it's still something wrong. And this may have been the peak of the worst part is I'm like, what do we do next? Like, this is not going away. I've gone to 3 urologists. They tell me I just have a chronic condition that's not going away. What do? So the next thing, we scope you. So they put a scope up your urethra in your bladder. And if you have TMS that is affecting your pelvic region, that is the most horrifying thing in the world. That was one of the most traumatic experiences I've had in my life, having that scope stuck up there. Anyways, they find nothing. I was pretty sure I had cancer. I did not have cancer. So then that's fine. And everybody's like, oh, aren't you happy? Aren't you happy? You don't have anything wrong. And it's like, no, I still am in freaking pain. So how can I be happy? They're just telling me they don't know anything. That doesn't solve my problem. And so then I go on, and then I go on this route where I had a hernia mesh surgery years ago. It was like 10 years ago. I never had any problems with it. I just saw it was fixed. Well, all of a sudden I decide I got mesh migration. There's some causing it. So that plastic that's in my groin, that must be the cause. And then I go down this whole road. I'm like, oh, I'm suing the people that did this surgery. And I go down this whole road. I go to a different surgeon who does the hernia meshes. We do a CAT scan. And that mesh is fine. But then he's like, well, you have another little hernia on the other side. I usually wouldn't operate on this, but because you're having all these symptoms, maybe it's the hernia. And I'm like, he tells me it's a 50-50 chance that fixing this hernia will make it better. So once again, I don't get a placebo response because there's no confidence coming from the surgeon. I sign right up for this next hernia surgery. Right up. Get me in on Monday. I need to do this now. So I get that one. I come out of that surgery. I immediately know it didn't work. So I am fucking rock bottom. Rock bottom. And nothing that is going on in my life is changing because all I'm doing is pursuing the physical symptoms. I don't know that I hate my fucking job. I don't want to be in grad school. I'm trying to be in a relationship with someone that's not going to work with. I'm drinking heavily. The list goes on. But I didn't know about any of that. I didn't know that was my problem. And so then this goes on, and then all of a sudden, then I finally get to the pelvic pain stuff, which is closer to the answer. And those are the books that I burned, but they were closer because they talk about stress, they talk about emotions, they even talk about like the survival mechanism, and they talk about the nervous system. But the main issue that comes up with that is that they're still talking about the trigger points, that are pretty personal for pelvic pain. They're still talking about all these stretches, and some of them are talking about diet, and they're telling you to hold your pee, which is not good because then all you're doing is when you're trying to hold it all the time, you're thinking about it all the time. So then TMS is working at its best. Well, finally, I see on a YouTube video someone says something about Dr. Sarno, and that's for back pain. But somehow, and I heard it on a Joe Rogan podcast too, Dr. Wheel talked about Dr. Sarno and how, people are healing from reading his book. So I read his book, and I could already tell, like, oh, this is what's freaking going on with me. But it doesn't click right away. And then I find Steve Ozanich's books. And the first one I read was actually Permanently Healing Back Pain, and then I found The Great Pain Deception. Now, when I read those, I was sold. I knew this is what was going on. I immediately called the physical therapist, told her I was done. I started journaling. I started figuring out, like, what's going on in my life. I had to leave this relationship. I got to start figuring some stuff out. And so that, like, I don't know how well I just told it, but that's basically where it happened, and that's where this all starts. And then that's where I leave the pelvic pain behind, and I start pursuing where I'm repressing emotions, what trauma I experienced as a child, what am I doing now, and how tense and stressed out am I? And when you're in chronic pain, it is not hard to understand that you are in a tension state. You're in survival mode. I mean, you're on a run, and it's like every freaking stick looks like a snake. That is survival mode. And there's no question you're in it when you're at the peak of chronic pain. And so that's where this all starts for me, and that's when I burned these books, and that's when I started, walking this path, and I quit every physical thing. I quit the physical therapist, got rid of the cushion in my car, and it's kind of funny. Like, I mean, also at the very worst of this for me, I had plantar fasciitis, pelvic pain, and back pain going on at the same time. I was thinking stomach problems going on at the same time, headaches, feeling sick all the time, an anxious wreck, but I was drinking my ass off, so that, trying to fix it that way. And like, I'd go out on a walk and I'd be like, oh man, every 10 feet I got to stop and stretch my calves because my freaking feet hurt. I got to get inserts in my shoes. My back hurts when I sit, so I'm going to walk all the time. But oh my God, man, that's going to mess up my feet. And meanwhile, I got to pee every second. I mean, the only break from that is when I can go to sleep. So it was horrible. It was absolutely horrible, and that's not where I'm at today. I wouldn't lie and say that I'm 100% symptom-free, but it's not. It's nothing like that. I mean, I couldn't have done this before. I mean, the light's back on for me, and the life is changing, and so much has changed in my life. It's pretty crazy. So I want to make sure I talk about some of the stuff that I'd written down. Okay, so I'm not saying that TMS healing is easy. I'm just saying that it's the only route to true permanent healing. So if you think you might have it, then at least you're on your way to permanent healing. Otherwise, you might be in it for the long haul. So Steve Ozanich talks about in his book, this is a quote from his book, and this is how I can explain how this is not necessarily easy. I mean, it's scary as hell, and you're going to face all your fears. And it's overwhelming as shit, but it's better. It's way better than what I was just talking about. So he says, if her pain was suddenly removed, she would suddenly have to face all those thoughts and emotions that her pain is vigorously trying to help her avoid. So that's what you're going to start to figure out. You have pain because you are not dealing with and figuring out what's actually going on in your life, and your body is freaking out. That's why Gabor Mate's that's why his book's called When the Body Says No. When you're so untrue to yourself that your life is going off the rails, your body is going to tell you. You just don't get off the hook for things in this life. And so, it's tough. And when you start going on the TMS trail, you're going to start facing things, and you're going to start just experiencing your pain. And I remember when I first started off, I would have to tell myself, because I started playing hockey, and things would just happen that would hurt, and I started running, and the plantar fasciitis would come up, man, and you got to stop every 15 feet to pee, and I'd be like, I just told myself, I'm like, saving your own life is not always going to feel good, and that got me through, and that helped me to keep pushing, because it's not going to feel good. And what you're doing is you're saving your own life. Let's see here. All right. So, I want to, when you're coming towards the end, or when you're about to accept that what you have is TMS, mind body syndrome, not any of the other physical labels, not a bulge disc, not a herniated disc, not arthritis, not migraines, not plantar fasciitis, not pelvic pain. You have pain there, but those aren't the things that you pursue to help to make sure they go away permanently. So right before you realize that, the hugest fears, and I remember this quite well, is this pain is going to last the rest of my life. You see no light at the end. And when you pursue it from a physical angle, you may not. You may have pain the rest of your life. And then the second fear I thought is, this is going to kill me. I have cancer. I'm going to die. And people that are in this state of mind understand that's not a joke. That's truly how you feel. Those are the thoughts you go to sleep with at night. The third scary thing is, only a doctor can fix me. I can't fix myself. And I'll tell you, nowadays, when I drive by, there's a pain clinic on every freaking corner. There's chiropractors, physical therapists, shoulder doctors. It's everything specified. Urologists. They're everywhere. And I'm like, thank fucking God, I never have to go back to those again. I never have to do that, because it was absolutely horrible. Well, those three fears, when you accept the work that Steve Ozanich has done in it, and Dr. Sarno, you realize that those fears are untrue, and everything changes. I remember right after I'd read those books, like days after, people immediately, like at the gym, and family members would immediately told me I looked different. And I think, I didn't feel that much different yet, but I had hope. Like, I didn't have hope before. Nobody gave me any hope or any answer that made any sense. And all of a sudden, this made sense. And I think my light just came back on. Like, the light was out. And everything, looking back, everything had changed at that point. So I think, that's the majority of what I wanted to talk about today. I want to keep doing what I can to tell my story, and to help get people a true connection, and to figure out what is really going on. I read a book recently because overcoming alcohol addiction has been part of my journey. And I read a book. It was called A Love Story. It was called Drinking a Love Story or something like that. And the author of that book she was talking about her mom in regards to her dad cheating. But I thought it was a good idea in that her mom was saying she did a piece of art, and it was called False Maps. And it was trying to express that when you're trying to not navigate the world with a false map, you have very little chance because you don't have the right information. So if you don't have the right information, if you don't actually know what's going on in order to fix a problem, how are you going to fix it? And so to get this message out there, it's what people need, and to recognize that all this stuff that's going on with you, your depression, anxiety, all your physical symptoms, they are secondary and they are symptoms. And so if you start addressing the things that are going on in your life, that's when you're going to begin to heal, and that's when it's going to start to resolve itself, and you're going to move forward in life, and things are going to start to be good again, guaranteed. Yeah, and that's all I want to say. My name's Tyson, and I hope to make more videos in the future. And hopefully, if this is going to help people, then this is what I'm going to do. You guys have a good day.